Welcome to Hannity. And tonight, Laura Ingraham, Jay Sekulow, Newt Gingrich will join us in just a few minutes. But first, the alt-left, propaganda media, and the Democratic Party, they're going all in on their massive Russian conspiracy theory and are once again launching a massive smear campaign to try and damage a key Trump administration official. And that is tonight's opening monologue. Now, in response to a political hit piece from the Washington Post and the onslaught of attacks that followed from Democrats, well, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is now recusing himself from all Russia election investigations. Let's take a look.
Let me be clear. I never had meetings with Russian operatives or Russian intermediaries about the Trump campaign. And the idea that I was part of a, quote, continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government is totally false. I ask for their candid and honest opinion about what I should do about investigations, certain investigations. And my staff recommended recusal. They said that since I had involvement with the campaign, I should not be involved in any campaign investigation. I have studied the rules and considered their comments and evaluation. I believe those recommendations are right and just. Therefore, I have recused myself in the matters that deal with the Trump campaign.
Now, Attorney General Sessions said the decision was reached over a matter of weeks and not a reaction to a Washington Post story that was published late last night with the headline, "Sessions met with Russian envoy twice last year, encounters he did not disclose." Now, the Washington Post is claiming that last year while serving as a U.S. Senator, that Jeff Sessions met with the Russian ambassador twice and then lied to Congress about this during his confirmation hearings. Now, in his capacity as a senator, Jeff Sessions was a senior member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So it was not out of the ordinary that he talked to foreign ambassadors because, as a matter of fact, he spoke to dozens and dozens of them last year alone. He was doing his job, and that's not all. Then there's this ridiculous notion that the alt-radical left is pushing that Attorney General Sessions committed perjury. He lied under oath during his confirmation hearing. Now, watch and listen very closely to this exchange that they're referring to between liberal Democratic Senator Al Frankenstein and then Senator Sessions.
CNN has just published a story, and I'm telling you this about a news story that's just been published. I'm not expecting you to know whether or not it's true or not, but CNN just published a story alleging that the intelligence community provided documents to the president-elect last week that included information that, quote, Russian operatives claimed to have compromising personal and financial information about Mr. Trump. These documents also allegedly stated, quote, there was a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government. Now, again, I'm telling you this as it's coming out, so, you know. But if it's true, it's obviously extremely serious. And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
He was responding to that question, that, quote, breaking news, which, by the way, turned out not to be true. Now, that's what the Democrats are hyperventilating about, losing their minds over? Yes, Jeff Sessions, as a senator, met with a Russian ambassador, but he did so in that capacity, not on behalf of the Trump campaign, which is why, when he was asked specifically about the election, he said, no, that wasn't me. the charge. That wasn't me. And by the way, where was the hysteria from Democrats during the campaign? Remember Bill Clinton met with the former Attorney General Loretta Lynch in a plane on a tarmac for over 30 minutes while Hillary Clinton was under investigation by the FBI, by the Justice Department? Lynch never recused herself. But unlike Loretta Lynch, Jeff Sessions, well, clearly wanted to reassure you, the American people, that all Russia investigations will be free of any political interference. And now the latest thing is, well, Jared Kushner and Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, they met with the Russian ambassador in December after the president won. So this whole smear campaign is really just part of the Democrats' larger fake news conspiracy theory that Russian hacking is all the reason why Hillary Clinton lost the election, and that somehow members of the Trump campaign secretly coordinated the whole thing. Now, they've been pushing this ever since Donald Trump won the presidency. But back in January, James Clapper, President Obama's own director of national intelligence, said Russian interference did not impact vote tallies, period. And earlier today, the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, said there's zero evidence the Trump campaign ever coordinated with Russia.
The House Intelligence Committee just finished coming up with its oversight plan to continue investigations. We will always make sure that we are protecting our sources and methods and getting to the bottom of any of these things. But we have seen no evidence, been presented with no evidence that anybody on the Trump campaign or an American was involved, including with the Russians.
Need more proof? The House Intelligence Committee, that's chairman is Devin Nunes. He said the same thing, and he said it earlier today. If there's anything that shows that Russia and the people from the Trump campaign somehow conspired and impacted votes in the election, then we'll be all over that story, kind of like what Obama did to try to defeat Benjamin Netanyahu, and we'll give you the details. But the alt-left propaganda media and the Democrats for months have been going ballistic over the Russian election influence without any evidence. They never told you the truth, by the way, about President Obama and his own foreign election interference. Now, when I talk about Israel, a congressional investigation found back in 2014 an Israeli political group used $300,000 of Obama State Department grant money, your tax dollars, to create a political apparatus to defeat the Israeli prime minister. Where was the outrage about influencing elections then? Where was the wall-to-wall news coverage? Where was the hyperventilating and mass hysteria? Well, they didn't care because it was their guy, their ideological soulmate that was doing it from the White House. Here with reaction, the editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Fox News contributor, nationally syndicated radio host Laura Ingraham, and from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow. Laura, there's never been a shred of evidence. He's clearly responding to Al Frankenstein, saying that there was also a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries from the Russian government. He said, that wasn't me. He answered truthfully a specific question.
First of all, you call him Frankenstein. I call him Franken-fraud. So we have the competing monikers there, Sean. It's so obvious when you listen to the question, the rambling question in its entirety. I think when you hear it, it's obvious that Sessions is actually going a step farther than even the question posed. The question was about, this idea of we're going to have any personal information to blackmail the Trump administration, and he actually offers more of an answer than was even requested by Franken. So if he was trying to hide some nefarious contacts, which, by the way, included a meeting at a Heritage Foundation, some type of, event reception at the RNC where 25 other ambassadors were. I'm sure maybe they shared a quiche at the buffet table or something. It's just ridiculous.
It gets funnier.
What you're witnessing, Sean, are the feigned, the paroxysms of feigned fury from the Democrats. They don't think Jeff Sessions was colluding with the Russians on the campaign. They don't believe that. This is their only way to exert what they think is relevance and perhaps power. They want to delegitimize Trump. This is right out of the Alinsky playbook. They have nothing else going on. They have no policy ideas. They have no substantive solutions for America. All they have is a bunch of dirt to throw, and it's childish. I don't think it's going to work either in the midterm elections. That's what you go to the voters with, that Jeff Sessions is colluding with the Russians.
Good luck with that.
This economy continues to do well. I don't think it's going to help.
It gets even a little more humorous, and I'll throw this to to Jay, because not only is it selective moral outrage, as Laura is pointing out here, but this is a debunked fake CNN news story that also included hookers in Donald Trump's room at the Ritz-Carlton, I believe in Moscow, apparently urinating on his bed. That was debunked, was it not? Sorry, Laura.
Well, look, I mean, the reality is that these stories and this whole narrative that's been created is a false narrative.
But isn't that
what
that news report was referring to?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, yes, but here's the problem, Sean. None of this is fact, and none of this is true. And what Jeff Sessions went through today, quite frankly, should make all of us outraged. Here's a guy that answered the question he was asked, which, as a lawyer, what I always tell my client to do: answer the question asked. Don't speculate. Don't go into hypotheticals. Answer the question asked. And instead, what happens? He answers the question that was asked, and they create this outrage where Chuck Schumer's, just outraged, and Nancy Pelosi's calling for him to resign his office. The fact is, and this is what's really happening here, you've got a shadow government that is leaking this information. People that were in step with the previous administration, they are leaking this information, and that is what people should be investigating. Why is information like this being leaked? That's what we really need to know. Not whether Jeff Sessions met with an ambassador when he was a United States senator. Guess what? Senators meet with ambassadors. I suspect that would include Senator Franken.
Yeah, when you really look at this, Laura, I think Jay's hit on the real issue here, and that is there are some 500 confirmations that they need to go through for the Donald Trump's government to be in place, and only today did we get Dr. Ben Carson and Governor Rick Perry in their positions. So you have a lot of holdovers now from the Obama administration that are sabotaging this administration, and then you got career bureaucrats that clearly don't support President Trump. What do they need to do to get rid of these people?
Well, I think this is where Mitch McConnell has got to really start playing hardball in this confirmation process. For instance, the U.S. Trade Representative Bob Lighthizer is being held up on spurious grounds. Hey, guy's devoted 25 years of his life to standing up for these trade issues and doing a fabulous job of it. He's one of the most talented people out there. Why don't we have a U.S. trade rep? And by the way, on the holdovers, right now, people have to realize that the Deputy Attorney General, the acting Deputy Attorney General, was an Obama appointee federal judge. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions at all, but people have to understand that that acting Deputy Attorney General could, at some point in the future, appoint a special prosecutor. Now, wouldn't that be rich? To have a Obama appointee making a decision about a special prosecutor, special investigation.
Last word, Jay.
Yeah, well, I think here's what we have. Jeff Sessions did the thing he did not have to do. He recused himself voluntarily, something his predecessor refused to do. So he took the highest of high ground. He needs to now be the Attorney General that he is and put this nonsense away. I suspect the political reality is going to be different, though, Sean, and we need to be prepared. The fact that you have those inside government, deeply entrenched inside this government, that are going to do everything they can to stop any progress going forward because they disagree with it. It's not their role. They are the ones creating the constitutional crisis, not Jeff Sessions.
All right, guys, thank you both. Appreciate it.